Hello and welcome to the second player interview here on Reds Fans. Just a quick disclaimer. Apologies about my voice. I'm suffering a bit of hay fever at the moment. But luckily, I'm delighted to say that on the line we have Mr. Scott Neilson. How are you doing, Scott?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
How are you coping in these strange times that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, it's not too bad, to be fair. Kind of getting used to it now. House is looking good. Garden's looking good. Running out of things to do now. But yeah, it's, kind of just taking the time to try and figure out, what to do, things to set up for once lockdown's over with, really.
Yeah. All right. If you could cast your mind back to the summer of 2010,
Yeah.
go back to there. You were contracted to Bradford City, obviously.
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts when you heard that Crawley Town were interested, and what were your plans?
To be honest, I'd never even heard of Crawley. I come from a non-league background. Before that, anyway, I was at Cambridge City, then Cambridge United, but I'd never really heard of Crawley Town. Rang up a few friends, still didn't really know much. Obviously, it was when I first spoke to Steve Evans then. I did a little bit search on Google, spoke to my agent, who was also Josh Simpson's agent at the time. And I could see that Crawley was signing good players. I could see Torres had gone there. I knew he had a good background because he was with Josh at Peterborough at the time. So I rang up Josh. And that was it, really. I hadn't really heard too much, but coming from a non-league background, it was nice to see that they were signing a lot of players from the league, especially myself, with Bradford City. Peter Taylor had come in. We kind of clashed from the start, and I wasn't going to get game time. So I went along to the meeting and met up with Steve Evans.
Well, wicked. And he must have made quite a good impression then to convince you, having not heard, or I assume you just saw him for the first time on his Wikipedia page or something.
Yeah, it was, with Steve, to be fair, me and him had a good relationship. It was kind of a love-hate relationship. But, when I met him, he's pretty much straight to the point. And, it sounded like a good idea that the club had good plans. And I kind of bought into that. He was signing some good players, and I knew I was going to get game time. So for myself, someone who loves playing football, it was a no-brainer for me, really.
And who had the biggest influence on you as a player in your development, I suppose, when you joined the club, in your time there?
Well, as soon as I joined, I straight away gelled with Carl McFadden. Me and him moved in together pretty much within a week of knowing each other. And then we was glued to the hips, for all of my time there. But, straight away, Sergio, Tubbsy, Craig McAllister, we all got on. It was such a good environment to play football. It was like you was going down the park every day to play football with your best friends,
Yeah, that sounds like what you dream of as trying to make it in the game, that you'd have that sort of experience. Just my third question is, well, you've just named a few, but do you still keep in touch with the closest teammates that you were closest to at the club?
Yeah, pretty much. I speak to Josh Simpson on a weekly basis. I speak to Scott Davis on a weekly basis. Scott Shearer, Carl. Now and again speak to Sergio. So yeah, I pretty much speak to a lot of the boys. We're looking to meet up for a reunion, hopefully in December, where we're going to get all of the boys back together. So yeah, it'd be really good. Dean Howe, another one, very close with Dean, speak to him on a daily basis. So yeah, pretty much still in contact with 6 or 7 of the boys most weeks.
Oh, cool. Just moving on to the Twitter questions now. And first one comes in from Alan Harper. He says, just what are you doing at the moment?
At the moment, I am working on a project. I've just bought a cafe, which is on a farm So I'm turning that into a cafe brunch place. Before that, I had a restaurant which I sold last year.
Okay. From my research, I sort of found out that you retire at 30 years old when you were at Royston? Is that?
Yeah, I only played a few games at Royston, but the lower I was dropping, it wasn't really for me. I kind of fell out of love with the game. I think once I left Grimsby was a really good club. I enjoyed playing there. The guys there it was a similar kind of setup to Crawley, you know. It was a family club. It was run. It was a nice atmosphere. Once I kind of left there and I went to Whitehawk, I kind of fell out of love with the game.
Okay. And did it feel like that all happened quite quickly? Did you miss a lot after leaving Crawley?
After leaving Crawley, it wasn't too. It was. I missed all of the boys and I missed the banter and things like that. Football-wise, it wasn't too bad. Like I said, Grimsby was still a great club to be at. The fans were great, very similar to Crawley. The boys there were really good as well. I was never going to be as close as how I was with all the boys at Crawley because, like I said, we was like best friends. It was a great club. It was great atmosphere, great environment. It was a family-run club. So I was still really enjoying playing football. After Grimsby, yeah, I kind of lost the love of the game. It didn't have that feel to it, certainly how I was at Crawley.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's understandable. That happens to a lot of players. I suppose you were quite young as well when that happened. So would you say you had your favourite years at Crawley?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. It was one of the things at the time. I think I kind of took it for granted what we actually had there, because the way we gelled, and like I said, every day it was a pleasure to drive in, from meeting up in the car school, driving into Crawley. You know, we'd be playing table tennis and pool, having breakfast with the boys. It was the only football club where people didn't want to leave. You know, we would get in, everybody, if we had training at 10:30, all of us boys would be in there at 9 o'clock, 9:30, and we'd all be playing table tennis, laughing and joking. We'd go and train. It was pretty much, you know, they would kick us out afterwards because we'd have lunch and then we'd all still be there. So it was a really good atmosphere, you know, ones that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Moving on to the next question. It's obviously going to be quite hard to choose, but JP says, who did you enjoy playing with the most?
Who did I enjoy playing with the most? Yeah, it's a tough question, really, because like I said, it was on a football field with some really good friends, you know, and that's not just, you know, I think nowadays you see a lot of people that say, oh, yeah, we're all really good friends, but it was generally really good friends. You know, I had Glenn Wilson, who played right back behind me, who I got on really well with, and then Hunty come in and played behind me as well, who, you know, Hunty I still speak to on a regular basis every week. You know, you had Sergio and Danny Ballman, who I was really close with. Josh, you know, I've known Josh for years before he even joined Crawley because I was with him at Cambridge City. Like I said, I lived with Carl McFadgen. And then up front you had Craig McAllister and Tubbsy, who I was equally really close with. So, you know, I couldn't even pick because from the goalkeeper to the centre forwards, we gelled so well, and you know, I classed every single one of them as more or less my best friends.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to some of the games that we've streamed in recent weeks, it's really clear to see the really good understanding that you've had with Glenn Wilson behind you, and your combinations down the right have been really effective.
Yeah, like I said, it was some of them things until I actually moved to other clubs that I did just take for granted. Such a good set of lads that, you know, everybody was looking out for each other. Even, you know, when I missed games through injury, you know, in the United game, I was always still so buzzing because, you know, I was so excited for my friends and the club and the team. So although I was obviously devastated to miss that game through injury, I was still so excited that I was there and I was a part of it, you know?
Yeah. Moving on, Scott Solis says, what was your favourite moment in a Crawley shirt? That worldie against Kidderminster that we showed about a week ago springs to mind.
Yeah, that was that was a good moment. You know, I had so many good moments. I think the best moment was probably getting promoted up at Accrington. Especially the league table was so tight there. Southend, I believe it was Southend who had, I think they was winning at home, and we needed a goal, and I'd missed a sitter in the first half as well. And it was just a sigh of relief, you know, when I scored the goal there. I think that was my best moment, you know, in a football shirt for sure.
Yeah, that'll definitely be remembered for years to come as, you know, that Crawley team, and that was such a massive achievement to get up to League One, obviously.
Yeah, it was. It was brilliant, you know, and it was one of them things where everything just clicked together so well. You know, the players, the manager Steve Evans, you know, it was always entertaining to have him there. We never knew what kind of behaviour or how he was going to react to training. There was always something going on, and everything just clicked right. You know, I think when we was on our day, there was nobody that was going to beat us.
Yeah. Next question comes in from Sam Cook. What inspired the Fat Man song, and how did that come about?
That come about from a trip in Portugal when we had a 2-week break. We used to always go to Portugal. We wasn't allowed, Steve Evans and Paul Rayner said we weren't allowed to go out at all, and it was just training. But I think it was on our 3rd night there, we all said, right, we'll all meet at 10 o'clock, we'll sneak out our bedrooms and we'll get in a taxi and we're all going to the town centre. So we all snuck out and we went to lots of bars, and I was singing that song. And then basically none of us actually thought Steve Evans would leave to go to Rotherham. So when he did and we was in a hotel before, I said, there's no way he's leaving now. Like, we're so close to promotion. You know, he's been with us. It was one of them things where you never would have thought anybody would want him to leave the club that was doing so well. And I said, if he leaves, I'll sing, because there's no way he's leaving. And then, you know, the chairman's come in and Bruce come in and Steenie, and they said, Steve Evans has gone. Has anyone got anything to say? And then the boys all said, yeah, Scott has, because they knew I said I would sing if he had left. And that was it. I was up singing. You know, it was all light-hearted, you know. I spoke to Steve Evans after that. It was nothing malicious, you know. It was just a little bit of fun. Yeah.
And Jed Jones wants to know, what was it like playing under Steve Evans? Like, his style, was he strict or just all round, really?
You know, it was the way he planned it out and he brought the players together, you know, was a masterclass. He got all of us in there. All of us gelled so well. You knew you couldn't really, you know, take the piss with him. It was enjoyable, you know. Sometimes you would think he's crazy, he's mad, he's going to have a heart attack. But, you know, it was enjoyable. I think when you look back, you just laugh. It was a really enjoyable time. He could go crazy at you 1 minute and then he'd call you in the office and he'd be cuddling you. So it was a really good experience. You know, he's crazy. People on the sidelines think, you know, he's mad. But, you know, he's a good manager. I believe he got the best out of the team. And, yeah, it was a really good experience, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that does come across that it is sort of like a special group where they're all playing at the top of their game. And obviously the way it went contributed to the incredible achievements, probably the best team that they've had in their history.
Yeah, it was a shame, really. It would have been nice, you know, if we could have had that team for, you know, 4 or 5 years. But it didn't work out like that, you know. It was back-to-back promotions and then it kind of all got separated and everyone seemed to go their separate ways.
That's all. Have you got anything else you'd like to say for the fans? You know, I'm sure they got really good memories of your time.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You know, the videos are great. It brings back great memories playing up at Crawley. Definitely going to come up to a game once we get out of lockdown. Hopefully see some familiar faces up there. And yeah, it was a pleasure.